G'day, welcome back to the Net Network. My name's Dan, and thanks for stopping by to watch my review of The Shallows by Nicholas Carr. A book about how as it says on the front, how the internet is changing the way we think and remember. There's an article in The Australian this weekend, or the weekend just gone if I post this late, in regards to this too, with a lot of younger people being native to the idea that they can look up anything on their mobile phone. I'm using a battery charger as a mobile phone prop, that they can look up anything on their mobile phones, i.e. they don't have to remember addresses anymore, they don't have to remember phone numbers anymore, birthdays, just the little simple things like that this article touches on. And it also goes a little bit deeper, where this book goes very much deeper, but the Australian article goes a little bit deeper and talks about what the repercussions are going to be for this trend of allowing a device that you can very easily mobilely, that's not a word, carry around with you, that can do all your remembering for you. And that's the basis sort of Nicholas Carr's book. That's the basic idea. I think internet communication students will be really interested in this book. Through my experience with my Curtin degree, I haven't actually had this book as prescribed reading, but I've used it. I've used a few quotes in a couple of essays, and I had just index read it then. Do you guys do that? Do you index read books where you're interested in topics in a certain book that you might have to read or you think could be beneficial to your study, and you index read it, where you go through the index and go, right, well, there's the word YouTube, and find the pages that he talks about YouTube. Well, that's what I did to begin with to help me write my essays, but then I got stuck on a page and I really enjoyed it. So kick back, grab a can of Coke or a coffee. You probably need it. I'm probably very boring. If you can stick with me, we're going to review this book. Cheers. Now, to begin with, I do have to say this book is kind of hard to read, especially the first chapter. It's called Hal and Me, and it's sort of it's basically an account of the journey the author, well, Nicholas Carr, went through. Did I say Nicolas Cage earlier before? I hope I didn't. Nicholas Carr, the journey Nicholas Carr went on writing this book. I'm actually reading a book at the moment called Tokyo Vice, about an account of a journalist's life working for the Daily Yamanori newspaper in Japan. I love Japan. I can't get enough. Tokyo Kuni is one of my favourite channels. But I didn't. It's a good contrast, because that book is full of information and facts, but it's such a good page turner. I mean, probably, being a journalist, he's probably very good at that. Big intros and getting to the points right up front. Now, this book, once you get into it, is actually quite, I wouldn't say entertaining, but just the fact that that there's so much in this book. I'm just going to go through a couple of quotes now for you. One of the major things this book gets into is how the internet is changing the way we read. He gets into the digitising of books and their convergence with mobile technology like the Kindle and laptops, etc. And he also talks about the hyperlinking of text and what that does for the capacity of our brain to intake and remember information. There's I can't remember the page right now, I've gone off topic, but there's a study in the book that he references where they got a whole group of uni students into a tute, and half of them were allowed to surf the internet while the tute was on, and half of them weren't. And the half that were able to search the internet could search for anything they liked. They could update their Facebooks, they could check out movies, they could be on eBay, or they could be even checking out information in regards to the tutorial that they were attending. And what they found was that even students that were clicking on information and searching and using their internet access in the tutorial to get more information about what was being said in the tutorial, in a test did not retain as much information as the people that were not that didn't have access to the internet. And I thought that was really interesting. But he says that even though this digitization has a lot of bad effects, there's a point in the book where he speaks about the freeing of that cognitive space in our brains, and if that we rely on a piece of technology to remember for us and to retain that information and to be able to reference that information in the relatively same amount of time as what it would take to remember it, using efficient search engines, etc., that what will this cognitive space do? And this cognitive space in our brain that is freed up from not remembering that, a lot of people say may die off, we may become stupider. Nicholas Carr sort of says that he agrees with that. He thinks there will be a numbing down of that section of our brain, but then there'll be an evolution where that part of the brain will be freed to be able to do a lot of daydreaming, is what he sort of references in the book from memory. And he basically says that the brain will have space to be able to create a lot more creative things. And as a creative person, I kind of dig that. One of the quotes that may be very usable and or interesting to internet communication students, if you're studying at Curtin, units like Web 207, Web 300, even Web 101, Med 104. It's a great quote. Nicholas Carr says, "When the net absorbs a medium, it recreates that medium in its own image. It not only dissolves the medium's physical form, it injects the medium's content with hyperlinks, breaks up the content into searchable chunks, and surrounds that content with the content of other media it has absorbed as well." That as well was paraphrasing. All these changes in the form of content also change the way we use, experience, and even understand the content. And I'm sure that's one of the main themes that's trying to come through in a unit like Web 207. One of the words in this book that I'd never heard before was hypermedia. Maybe I didn't do the reading that week. Maybe there was a reading on hypermedia. I'd never heard of it before. It says, the web combines the technology of hypertext with the technology of multimedia to deliver what's called hypermedia. It's not just words that are served up and electronically linked, but also images and sounds and moving pictures. Just as the pioneers of hypertext once believed that links would provide a richer learning experience for readers, many educators also assumed that multimedia or rich media, or hypermedia, as it's sometimes called, would deepen comprehension and strengthen learning. What they've found is that's not exactly true.